guys. I'm here at Brevity, a coffee shop here in Lexington, Kentucky, and with a friend of mine, Madison, who is an amazing worship leader. And over these last couple of days, we've been doing just a brief story out of Isaiah. So, Madison, I'm going to do this story with you and then ask you just a couple of questions.
See?
All right?
Sounds good.
So, it's my favorite story in all the Bible. So, a couple of things to know. Uzziah was a king of Israel. He'd been a king for 52 years. While he was a king, the country had been blessed tremendously, except for the whole spiritual thing. That kind of went down the tubes a little bit when he was king. But so, and that's kind of it. So here's a story from God's Word. In the year that King Uzziah died, I saw the Lord. He was high and lifted up and seated on a throne, and the train of his robe filled the temple. And above him stood seraphim. Each one had 6 wings. With 2 he covered his face, with 2 he covered his feet, and with 2 he flew. And one called to another and said, "Holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts. The whole earth is filled with his glory." And at the sound of the seraph's voice, the foundation of the temple shook, and the room was filled with smoke. That's our story.
So cool.
So, and I just want to talk about just a couple of verses in that story, not the whole story in itself, but I find it interesting that this angelic being, as they're hollering out who God is, holy, 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 and that the whole earth is filled with His glory. What do you see there? What does that remind you of?
Yeah, I think it's so cool that they're singing that consistently, like that they don't get tired of singing the same words over and over again. That's like never getting tired of God. Always observing something new about Him, and His worthiness of being worshipped.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. I did a story earlier where we talked about the fact these angelic beings are in heaven, which we know there's no sin in heaven, and yet they still cover their faces in the presence of God, which I thought was kind of cool.
Yeah.
But what about the results of the worship here? It said the foundation of the temple shook, and the room was filled with smoke. I mean, what does that tell you about the power of worship? What do you see there?
Yeah, whenever you worship, that it does something physically in a room. I think that there's so much power that the Spirit has whenever we worship, and that can result in physical shaking, but also just a reverence of how powerful God is.
Right? Yeah, I like that. I like that whole reverence idea, which I think sometimes is something we have lost, especially in the American church.
Yeah.
The idea of reverence there. Now I'm gonna throw you for a loop a little bit here, because you immediately said singing.
Oh, it's not just singing.
In the story, do we even see them singing?
No.
One said to another, "Holy,
Yeah.
holy, holy," and I mean the fact they're just declaring what God already is.
Yeah.
I mean, what might that show us about worship?
I think that worship can look different for everybody. I know some people who worship through drawing pictures, journaling. It isn't just making music, but it's a posture of heart in a way of just giving glory to God.
Yeah. Oh, I like that posture of heart. That's almost like the posture of these angelic beings. We have the opportunity to have a posture at heart. I'm curious today. When you talk about posturing your heart, what does that make you think of? I mean,
I think for me, in my personal life, posturing my heart is the way that I carry myself every moment of every day, the way that I talk to people, people that I know, people I don't know.
So let me see. I don't want to put words in your mouth, so if I get this wrong,
go for
feel
it.
free to correct me. But so what I hear you saying is that for you, worship is, here at the coffee shop, just talking to folks or being in class or,
absolutely.
Can you build on that a little bit? I like that.
Yeah. example, here at this coffee shop, we have a big table in this big part of the room. And me and my friends now call it the community table. But I'll just be sitting there with a friend and be talking and see somebody else sitting at that table and just welcoming them into our conversations. I've gotten to just talk about Jesus with people that I don't even know.
Yeah.
And I think that can be a kind of worship of just having conversations with people about God. Because that can be used to show His glory, you know?
Yeah.
But just talking to the barista and asking him about his day and what he's doing this week, and just being an encouragement and a light, I think wherever you go, can just hold a lot of power.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I'm curious, how might this story help as a worship leader? Somebody that really works and feels called to lead people into the worship of God. How might this story help you in that?
Yeah, I think recognizing that there's so much power, I think easily we can fall into the mundane patterns, but realizing that there's something new that we can see in the Father every single time that we worship, and just holding this holy reverence whenever we worship, that it isn't just singing a song or drawing a picture or a simple conversation, but it can be a divine encounter with Jesus.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Well, thank you for your time. Hey guys, we appreciate you for watching and listening today. Sorry about the background noise. I'll try to do something about that in post, but it'll be limited. But until the next time, just keep on telling those stories.